Hello and welcome to CAN TV. My name is Henry Siegel. I'm here from Lucha, a representative from Lucha for the Latin United Community Housing Association. We've been here before, and so I'm just here today. It's been a while since I spoke on this show, and so I wanted to come here today and talk about credit again. We are going to come into the summer months, and I just wanted to make sure that we cover credit and cover everything that needs to happen in order for someone to purchase a home for the first time, potentially. The summer is a great time to buy. It's a great time to rent or change apartments. A lot of people are changing apartments during the summer. And so it's just important that you understand credit and what that means, and what impacts that it can have, either whether or not you're going to be a renter or whether or not you're going to go buy a home for the very first time and you're going to take on that endeavor. So I'm just going to talk about that. But before I do, I'm just going to go over, make sure you guys remember who we are, Lucha. So once again, the Latin United Community Housing Association. We were founded in 1982 by members of the Logan Square, West Town, and Humboldt Park neighborhoods. We have two offices currently. We have one on North Avenue, on 3541 West North Avenue, and our other office is at 1152 North Christiana. And so one office is our main office, the one on North Avenue, and that has our building development team, marketing, and as well as our affordable housing development. And that's where a lot of those different departments work and act out of. And so if you're if you are in need of an affordable housing unit, you're in need of affordable rental, and you want to see if you can rent from us and get on our wait list, I would definitely encourage you to go to our North Avenue office. We have over 153 units of affordable housing, and we are just on our way to finishing up some additional buildings, over 11. You might actually see some of those if you're ever walking on the 606 trail sometime. They're nice, they're beautiful buildings, and they're affordable, and we're really proud of what we've accomplished in that regard. And so please take a look at them, and look us up online at www.lucha.org to find out more. I'm part of the Housing Counseling Department, and our department functions out of our 1152 North Christiana office. And so that department is a little bit smaller. We've got about 5 individuals there, so it's all 5 of us working out of that office, as well as our director. He would be our 6th. And so we are very proud of what we do there. And so we do a couple of different things. We do rental counseling, foreclosure prevention counseling, financial counseling, credit counseling, pre-purchase counseling, post-purchase counseling. So it's a whole variety of different things. And so what we do there is, so what you can get from there is you can get personalized housing counseling depending on your financial need. In addition, someone else who works there as our supportive services. So we also have an OVW program, which is basically for victims of domestic violence who need assistance with getting rental housing. So with that being said, so thank you so much for tuning in with us. Once again, my name is Henry Siegel, so please call in if you have any questions during this presentation here. I would like to mention that our mission is to preserve housing as a human right and advance housing as a human right. And so we do that through these housing counseling. And one of our biggest avenues for meeting with people throughout the community is our homebuyer workshops. And our homebuyer workshops are 6-hour-long workshops. They usually take place either at a Humboldt Park office at 1152 North Christiana, or in this particular case for our next one coming up on July 21st, it's going to be taking place at the Humboldt Park Public Library at 1605 North Troy. And so these workshops, they're really comprehensive. They're going to break down the entire home buying process for you. You're going to get a step-by-step breakdown of what needs to happen in order for you to get in your home. In addition, we also bring in members of the real estate industry, such as real estate agents, lawyers, home inspectors, attorneys. Obviously, our housing counselors are present doing the presentations. We bring in lenders specifically, as well as insurance agents. And so those individuals, so while a housing counselor knows a lot about the process, we don't know some of the specifics. And who better to go to for those very specific things that they go on within their industries than the industry professionals themselves. And so we have those industry professionals talk about their role in the process, and then you get a comprehensive view of what it takes to buy a home, and you can ask them any questions that you like. And the best part about this whole workshop, other than the fact that you get food, is that it is free. So it's completely free of charge, and at the end, you'll be eligible to receive a certificate that can allow you to apply for down payment assistance. And so why do we all need down payment assistance? Down payment assistance, so down payment is sometimes the biggest barrier to home ownership, because you need to come up with potentially $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 in order to purchase that home for the first time. because you need to put something down up front. And so what we have, what some, like for example, the Illinois Housing Development Authority has created in the city of Chicago, they've created down payment assistance programs that help with some of those monies up front. But what do you need in order to get those down payment assistance programs? Well, you need to have a certain credit score. You need to have a household income. And in addition, you also have to make sure that you attend one of these first-time homebuyer workshops so you can get that certificate. And this is just to make sure that you are educated on the process and we don't fall into any traps or any scams that occurred leading up to 2008 when we had that massive housing crisis. And because we don't want that to happen again. So, once again, I'm here to talk about credit. And so, one of the biggest things about credit, and first off, or one of the things that you should understand before going into credit, and before you even want to think about buying a home, is are you ready? And this could be a number of factors. Are you ready to be a homeowner? Are you ready to take on all that responsibility of owning that home? Are you ready financially? Do you have the right credit? Are you going to get the best interest rate possible? Are you going to get the most down payment assistance possible? What are the upsides to homeownership? What are the downsides? Have you thought about these? So these are just questions that you should be asking yourself throughout the process, and these are some of the things that we'll cover during that workshop, just so you can get a better idea and start thinking about the process as a whole. So I don't know how many of you may know your credit score. It's important that you understand what your credit is. And so there are a couple different ways that you can do that. There's a lot of free ways. The best way to find out what your credit score is, I would say, would be to go onto annualcreditreport.com. And so you have to pay for their score. Now you can get a free credit report from them, and those are free. You can get one from each credit bureau each year, but you don't get the score. But it is important to check your credit and to see if there's anything that may be incorrect on there that you need to get removed. In addition, so then you can pay a small fee and you can also get your credit score. Or if you decide that we want to work with Lucha, we can, if you, by starting counseling with us, we can get you up to 2 free credit reports by working with us. And those are credit reports that we pull, and the tri-merge reports, meaning we're pulling from 3 credit bureaus. And so this is some of the best ways for you to get your credit score. And it's sometimes even better. So you can why not pay us and get free counseling in addition to a credit report every month, because after the first 2, they're not free anymore. We just pass on whatever fee that we get paid, we pass it on to you. We're not paying you any more than we get charged. And that could potentially be a monthly fee or a bi-monthly fee, but you're getting full comprehensive counseling. We're analyzing that credit report with you. We're helping you to fix anything that needs to be fixed. And so I find that to be more valuable than, let's say, paying for a credit report through another agency or some online system that isn't going to provide you with any additional assistance. So what is the importance of a credit score? So obviously it's buying a home, but in some cases you need to buy a car, get a business, rent. And so obviously in this time of the summer, some people might be changing rents and might be finding hard to get another apartment because of their credit score. And so that's what we want to try and avoid. So credit, I actually have a definition here that I like to read, and it's a nice little definition that you can use. So credit is borrowed money that you can use to purchase goods and services when you need them. And it's important, that need part, because usually people only notice what their credit is when they need it. You're going to be charged interest for the privilege of borrowing money and being given the opportunity to pay a set rate for a specified period of time instead of the entire amount. So remember, it's a privilege. It's not a right to get credit. It's a privilege, and so that's why we have that scoring model that can provide some objective way to analyze your credit worthiness. Okay, so there are a couple different types of credit that you just want to be aware of. The first 2 that I would like to mention are revolving credit and installment credit. So revolving credit is like a credit card or a charge card. It's like those Macy's cards that you might take out, or a Target card that they're trying to sell you at the cash register. So just be aware that those you have to pay off it's best to pay them off at the end of the month, just so you don't accrue interest charges. So then there's installment credit, and this is kind of like an auto loan where you get a set amount, you have a set total loan amount, and then you have to pay that back monthly. You pay it back monthly at a certain monthly payment every month, and you're getting charged interest as well. And the last thing is service credit, and this could be service through service providers, utility bills, things of that nature, and those don't tend to end up on your credit unless they're negative, unless you're derogatory on them, meaning that you've fallen behind and they've decided to put you into collections. So when a lender is going to look at you, more often than not, they're going to look at a couple different factors. First being capacity. Do you have the ability, so they're going to give you a loan. are you going to be able to pay that back? Do you have the capacity? Do you have the financial? Do you have the income to pay that back? The next thing you want to look at is capital. What do your savings look like? Do you have any assets? Next, and then the third one, so one of them is character, but I was recently told that character, nowadays, because it's so automated, their systems, character doesn't play as much of a role, but you do want to make sure that you're paying attention to whether or not you have a lot of late payments. Because a lender, especially, is going to look at how many late payments you have on your credit report. And what a late payment says is basically that, so if you had one, once in a year, not a big deal. But if you have a couple, and they're ongoing, or you have once a month or something that's going to be a red flag for them, and you want to make sure that that is not that you want to avoid that, so you don't give any lender allow a lender to question your worthiness of getting that loan. And then the last thing is collateral. So this is basically the value or worth of your property. So that's important as well in terms of whether or not you're going to get. So if you get a home, so this could be a collateral. In some cases, it can be a home, especially if you're going to get a business loan. You can put your house up as collateral, and that means if you don't pay your loan, if you don't pay your business loan, they're going to take your home. So that's just a form of collateral, an example. So in terms of FICO, the range of your credit, so there's, it basically goes from 350 to 850, or 300 to 850. With the lowest being 300 and the highest being 850. This is kind of like your financial report card. So we all leave school and we go from A's, F's to A's, and now we're going from 800 to 850. Essentially the same thing. Some people have good credit, some people have bad. Basically, it only matters when you want to get something. When you want to get a car, you want to get a house that requires you to have credit and to get a loan. So ideally, nowadays, so there are a couple of different types of down payment assistance program. This is usually what we at Lucha use as like a baseline. So IDA, for example, the Illinois Housing Development Authority has a grant for $7,500. So the $7,500 grant is a forgivable loan for if you live in the property for over 5 years, you don't have to pay it back. Now, in order to get that grant, you have to have, if you're going to go FHA, get a loan through FHA, you have to have at least a 640. If you're trying to go conventional, then you need at least a 660. And so that's what we can use, and we at Lucha use as kind of like a baseline. Now you can get a loan at 580, and there's also down payment. There's one down payment assistance program that can give you a loan down payment assistance at 580. You can also get a loan at 580. But guess what happens when you have that loan? It's more than likely that your interest rate is going to be much higher than it would be if your credit score was higher. It's basically standard across the board, more often than not. So that's the baseline that we're going to do. So that we're going to get. So when we say good, so if I were going to say someone has good credit, I would say they have enough to get IDA. Now, if you have an 800, you have excellent credit. You can basically, the world is your oyster. So that's an excellent thing to have. So I do want to mention that there's FICO scoring and then there's Vantage scoring. So FICO scoring is designed by the Fair Isaac Corporation, and it's the longest standing version of how they establish credit scores. It's the most widely used throughout the mortgage industry. Now, that's been around for a while, and so more recently we have a new system, and it's called Vantage. And so Vantage was created by TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. And so Vantage, it's important that it now uses the same scoring range from 300 to 850, but they have a different algorithm. Basically, in other words, a different mathematical equation for how they determine your scores. Now, the mortgage industry uses FICO. So that means if you have your score and you're getting it from Vantage, like let's say if you use Credit Karma all the time, you're going to get a different score. It's going to vary from what your FICO score is. So while Credit Karma is a great way to monitor your credit, it is not the best way to get a score that will tell you whether or not you can afford a mortgage, or whether or not you can get a mortgage or get a certain type of down payment assistance program. Okay, and that's the same thing that goes along with, in many cases, it's the same way that I've seen a lot of differences and discrepancies between, let's say, Chase's credit journey or Discover's, or Discover has one, and Capital One has a credit monitoring system. And for the most part, they have shown me different scores than what our system, which is used by many mortgage lenders, is showing. But they're a great way to monitor your credit, and you always want to monitor your credit just in case you're a victim of identity theft, which is a huge problem in the United States, and we need to make sure that you're not a victim of identity theft. And that that's also an addition. So that's why annualcreditreport.com is also a great opportunity. It is a great way to get your credit, and you don't have to pay anything. So very briefly, in terms of how FICO is generated, you get a score based on certain scoring factors, and one of the biggest, and so they basically, there's a pie chart, and if you're thinking of it just as a pie, the biggest portion of your credit comes from payment history. And so what does this mean? This means, have you been making your payments on time? And so that means if you have make one late, so this is 35% of your score. So if you make one late payment, 35% of your, that's 35% of your score, so that's going to ding you more so than any other thing that you could possibly do to your credit. So that's just one late, that's a late payment where you went over 30 days, you got the late fee, and so it's like a full-on late payment. It's not just like you paid it during the grace period. That's what we want to avoid. And so that also means like if you get a collection account or your account's being charged off, those are considered part of your payment history, and those impact you very, very negatively. The next portion of your account is your account balance. And so what that means is the proportion of your credit, of your available credit to the credit that you're using. So let's say you have a credit limit on a credit card of $1,000 and currently your balance is $500. Right now your available credit is about 50%. To have good credit, we want that 50 to turn into 70, meaning that you are only using 30% of your available credit. So like, for example, your balance is now 300 and your credit limit is 1,000. So if you max out your credit, that means you have zero available credit and 30% of your score is being impacted very, very negatively because you have no available credit. And that basically shows lenders that it's very hard to, first off, it's very hard to get credit, and also it shows that you have some potentially bad habits, or you fell on hard times or whatever. From a lender's perspective, they're just looking at your credit score. They may look at in some cases, if it gets really down into it, they'll look at your bank statements and check and see your payment, what your history is, and and if you're buying anything on a regular basis that they think is a red flag. The next thing would be length of credit history. So this is why we don't tell people to close their accounts. So length of credit is basically how long an account's been open for. But let's say if you have great payment history on one account and you also have that account open for 15 years and you close it, you've just knocked out 50% of your score. So that's why we say, do we want to avoid closing accounts? For the most part. Now there are exceptions to everything. But for the most part, we want to avoid closing accounts. Next thing that's not nice to have is 10% of your score is having a variety of different credit. So this could be having real estate accounts, like real estate loan, auto loan, credit cards, blah, blah, blah. Those I would try to avoid. Like that's an ideal, but if you're just trying to work on your credit, I wouldn't focus so much on that. Finally, we have inquiries, and inquiries are 10% of your score. And so inquiries are basically when you go to a bank and you ask for a credit card. That is, you're asking for credit. And so when you ask for credit, that's going to hurt your score. And that's what's happening when you do a hard inquiry. That's what it's called. And so we want to avoid doing more than 3 in 6 months. That's just the general rule of thumb. You don't want to look like you're asking for more credit than you need, and you don't want to look desperate. That's what a lender is going to look at when they look at your credit score or credit report. They don't want to see too many inquiries, because then they're going to think in their head, why is this person going and trying to get so much credit? Is something going on? What's happening in their life? They may not be able to tell, but they're just going to assume whatever they can. So I did mention hard pull and soft pull. So when Lucha pulls your credit score or a HUD agency pulls your credit score, it's called a soft pull. So it does not impact your score whatsoever. It is completely neutral. Now, when you ask for credit and you go and try to get a credit card or you try to get a mortgage loan, that will be a hard pull, and that's going to impact your score negatively. Now, for the mortgage industry, we have now established a grace period where you can go to certain lenders and you go as many as you want, and they're going to pull your credit, and it's only going to impact your score once. This date range, I usually say it's 14 days, and that's to play it safe. It does vary in terms of days. It might between the lender, but you may not know that, and so it's good to play it safe with a 14-day grace period. So that means you have 2 full weeks to go shop around for a mortgage and try to get a pre-approval, for example, and it's only going to impact your score once, or meaning it's only going to show up as one inquiry. Okay. And so on your report, you'll probably see, you potentially see personal information, and that you want to definitely check and make sure that it's all accurate, because if it's not, then you want to make sure that you correct that. You can do that online at a credit bureau's website, like TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian all have websites. And so it's important that you make sure that all is accurate, and so you can correct that there, or you can come to Lucha, and we will definitely assist you with correcting any of that. We have a lot of different avenues for doing that. We have a lot of experience, especially collective experience throughout all of our counselors that can provide you with any of that assistance that you need. Ultimately, our goal is to empower you so that you understand how to do it yourself, so in the future you don't have to come back to us. But we love having you regardless. So you might see public records if you've ever had a bankruptcy, adverse accounts, accounts in good standing, credit history requests. It's important to know that if you do have if you ever had a bankruptcy, for most lenders, you're gonna have to wait around 2 to 3 years after the discharge date. So let me be clear. It's 2 to 3 years after the discharge date of when you can purchase a home or attempt to get a loan from a lender. Okay. So, and that goes, and then foreclosures, I believe, is 3 years if you're going to go FHA, and then I think 7 for conventional, but I may be incorrect there. But you always want to ask a lender, and there are usually exceptions to everything, so it's important to go and see what your options are. Okay. So essentially in terms of your credit, and this is somewhat, it's redundant, it's unfortunate, but essentially time heals all wounds. And the reason I say that is because there are certain things in your account that you can't really do anything about. You can dispute them as much as you want, but if they belong to you, they're just going to cut them back on your report. When you dispute something, it takes it out of your score, so it may look like your credit score goes up really quickly, but at the same time, it's just in dispute. So if it ends up being yours, then they put that back in your account, your score is just going to go right back down. So that's what a lot of credit repair agencies sometimes do, and so you just want to make sure that you're aware of what's happening and aware of what happens when you put an account in dispute, especially when it is your account and there's nothing saying that it's not your account. Now, if it's not your account and it's someone else's and you don't know where it is or who it belongs to and you're trying to dispute it, by all means, just be aware of what's happening. And so credit and collection accounts, basically those collection accounts, they'll stay in your report for up to 7 years. 7 years and 180 days to be exact. And so, and that also goes for late payments. And so you want to make sure, so those stay in your report for years. So that's why we want to avoid them at all costs. Okay? And if in some cases you may get a chance to ask your creditor if they can remove those, by all means go ask. Asking is the most important thing you can possibly do here. In most of this industry is just ask and see what is available to you. But for the most part, keep in mind that late payments and collection accounts, they're going to stay in your report for 7 years. Bankruptcy and Chapter 7 and Chapter 13, these will stay in your report for 10 years. Same thing goes for tax liens. And then lawsuits and judgments will stay in your report for 7 years. So just keep in mind that in some cases you just have to wait. Once again, if you want to dispute errors, you can go online to the credit bureau's websites, and those are always good. Good place to start, or you can come to Lucha and we can help you out with that. And finally, if you have an ITIN, for example, or you don't have any credit, there is something called non-traditional credit, and you can use that which is basically like rent payments, utility payments, and basically as long as you don't have a late payment on any of those utilities, those are great ways. Those are ways to prove that you have some form of credit, you haven't had any late payments, and you can get a home that way. So that's all pretty much I have for today. We're running out of time here. I just want to make sure that you understand, get a good picture of where we are again. So once again, we're Lucha, and our address is 1152 North Christiana, Chicago, Illinois 60651. We are on the corner of Division and Christiana. That's between Holman and Kedzie. And then our other office is on North Avenue in Central Park, more or less. And you can contact us for any questions at 773-489-8484. And please visit our website. We just got a new website at www.lucha.org. We're revamping that. It looks great. It's beautiful. You can check and see one of our amazing murals that are on there. It's actually the front page of our website. Or you can check. You might have seen it on one of our buildings. It's actually on our affordable housing buildings. And also for any questions, you can feel free to email intake@lucha.org. Once again, My name is Henry Siegel. I work for Lucha, and I thank you so much for your time. And hope you have a good day. Stay cool, don't overheat, and yeah, have a good day.